Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're doing something a little bit different. We got a really cool request from a listener who is looking for some help with everyday English.
Yeah, this should be fun.
And instead of just sort of lecturing about grammar rules or vocabulary, we thought, why not take a look at an actual conversation?
Yeah, that's a great idea.
And see how these phrases play out in a real-world setting. So we've got this fantastic dialogue between two people, Ryan and Emma. Ryan's the one who's trying to polish up his English, and Emma is like his friendly guide, walking him through some common expressions.
I love it. It's like we're getting a sneak peek into a little language lesson.
Exactly. So let's jump right in. Where do most conversations begin? Greetings and introductions.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that.
It's the foundation.
It's so interesting, isn't it, how much importance we place on those first few words.
Oh, absolutely. And Emma points this out right away. She gives Ryan a whole bunch of options.
Yeah.
Like she starts with a simple, hey.
Very casual.
Yeah, super casual. Then she goes on to good morning, good afternoon, even good evening.
Oh, the whole spectrum. So it's like choosing the right tool for the job.
Exactly.
Okay.
And like any good tool, you got to know when to use it. So Emma's really emphasizing context here. You wouldn't greet your boss the same way you'd greet a friend at a party.
Okay, for sure.
Totally different vibe.
Big mistake.
Now, there's one greeting that I think deserves a special shout out.
Which one?
The classic, what's up?
Ah, yes. The universal icebreaker.
It's everywhere. But here's the thing. It's not always a genuine question.
Right.
Sometimes it's more like a social signal, like a way of acknowledging someone without expecting a detailed rundown of their day.
Exactly. And Emma gives Ryan some great examples of how to respond in those situations.
She does.
Like, not much, or just the usual.
Or even, hey, what's up with you?
Oh, that's a good one. Turn it back around.
Keep that conversation flowing. So we've covered greetings, but introductions can be a whole other ballgame.
They can be a little nerve-wracking for sure, especially when you're meeting someone for the first time.
There's that pressure to make a good first impression.
Yeah, you want to strike the right balance, right?
And Emma, being the awesome guide that she is, she gives Ryan some really solid advice. Keep it simple, she says.
Good advice.
Just a clear, hi, I'm your name, or my name is your name. What's yours?
No need to overthink it. Straight to the point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think this ties back to what we were talking about earlier, that idea of context.
Oh, how so?
Well, the way you introduce yourself can also depend on the situation. Like, a formal business setting might require a more formal introduction.
Right. You might include your title or company, for example.
But in a casual setting, keeping it simple and friendly is usually the best approach. It's more about making a connection, right?
Absolutely. And that's what good communication is all about, connecting with others.
Now, introductions are just the beginning. There's a whole world of other phrases and expressions that we use to navigate our daily interactions, and we'll be exploring those right after the break. Welcome back to The Deep Dive, where we're taking a closer look at everyday English with our friends Ryan and Emma. Now we're moving into some really practical situations that I'm sure you've encountered yourself.
Yeah, these are those moments where you really need the right phrases to get your point across.
Exactly. And sometimes those phrases are all about being polite and showing respect. Like when you're shopping, for example.
Ah, yes. The art of retail therapy.
Emma gives Ryan some really handy phrases for navigating the shopping world.
Like what kind of things?
Well, she starts with the basics, like asking for prices.
Excuse me, how much is this?
Exactly. And then, sometimes you need a different size.
Right. Not everything fits perfectly off the rack.
So Emma suggests, do you have this in a smaller size? Or do you have a larger size?
Makes sense. And what about when you want to try something on?
Oh, that's a good one. Emma tells Ryan to simply ask, can I try this on, please?
Polite and to the point. I like it.
And you know what? This might seem obvious, but it's amazing how many people forget to use please and thank you when they're shopping.
Oh, absolutely. Those little words go a long way in creating a positive interaction.
It's like you're acknowledging the other person's effort,
It shows respect. And speaking of respect, what about when you're at a restaurant?
Oh, the dining experience. That's another area where good manners are essential.
For sure. You're interacting with servers, hosts, maybe even other diners.
And Emma, being the thoughtful language coach that she is, she walks Ryan through the whole process. From requesting a table.
Table for two, please.
Perfect. To placing your order.
I'll have that. What is it that Ryan orders?
Let's see. He goes for the pasta, but he makes a special request.
Ooh, dietary restrictions.
Yeah. He says, "Can I have the pasta without cheese, please?"
That's a good example of how to communicate your needs clearly and politely.
Right. And it's so important to be upfront about those things, especially if you have allergies.
Absolutely. No one wants to end up with a surprise ingredient they can't eat.
Now, Emma also gives Ryan some tips on how to ask for recommendations.
Like, what would you recommend?
Yeah. Or, what's your most popular dish?
It's always nice to get an insider's perspective.
Especially when you're trying a new restaurant.
Definitely. Now, we've talked about shopping and restaurants, but what about those times when you need to get somewhere but you're completely lost?
The dreaded lost tourist scenario.
We've all been there at some point, right? Wandering around with a map that makes no sense.
And in those moments, knowing how to ask for directions can be a lifesaver.
Oh, for sure. But it's not just about knowing the words. It's about speaking clearly and confidently.
And being polite. Emma reminds Ryan to start with a friendly, "Excuse me."
Of course. You don't want to startle anyone.
And then she gives him some simple but effective phrases like, "Could you tell me how to get to Pre?"
Yeah. Or, excuse me, where is the nearest?
Exactly. And the great thing about those phrases is that you can use them in any city, any country.
They're like universal travel essentials.
Now, what if you get directions, but you're still a bit confused?
Oh, I hate when that happens. It's like your brain just can't process the information.
Right. Sometimes the street names are unfamiliar, or maybe the person giving directions is speaking too quickly.
Or maybe you're just having one of those days where your brain feels like mush.
We've all been there. But the important thing is not to suffer in silence.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to ask for clarification.
And Emma gives Ryan the perfect phrases for that too. Like, "Could you repeat that, please?"
Yeah, that's a good one. Or, could you say that more slowly?
Exactly. And you know what? Most people are more than happy to help if you approach them politely.
It's all about being respectful and acknowledging that you need a little extra guidance.
So, we've covered asking for directions, we've tackled shopping and restaurants. But what about something a little more personal? Like making plans with friends.
Ah, yes. The social side of everyday English.
Emma's got Ryan covered there too. We're back and ready to wrap up our deep dive into everyday English with Ryan and Emma. You know, it's been really fascinating to see how these seemingly simple phrases play such a big role in our daily lives.
They really do. It's like they're the building blocks of all our interactions, from casual chats to more formal situations.
Exactly. And Emma has really emphasized the importance of choosing the right phrase for the right moment. It's like she's given Ryan a whole toolkit for navigating those tricky social situations.
I love that analogy. It's so true. Like, think about asking for directions. If you don't know how to ask clearly and politely, you could end up wandering around lost for hours.
Or imagine trying to order food in a restaurant without knowing the right phrases. You might end up with a meal you don't even want.
Nightmare. But with Emma's guidance, Ryan's now equipped to handle all sorts of situations. He can ask for help, express his needs, even share his opinions with confidence.
It's amazing how a few well-chosen words can make such a difference. And, you know, it's not just about speaking English as a second language. I think even native speakers can learn a lot from this deep dive.
Oh, absolutely. We all fall into bad habits sometimes, using the same phrases over and over without really thinking about their impact.
It's so easy to forget the power of language, you know. But when we pay attention to the words we choose and the way we use them, we can really elevate our communication skills.
It's like we're becoming more mindful communicators.
Exactly. And that's a skill that can benefit us in all areas of our lives, both personal and professional. Now, as we wrap up our time with Ryan and Emma, there's one final aspect of everyday English we need to touch on: saying goodbye.
Yes, the art of the graceful exit.
It might seem simple, but it's actually really important to leave a positive, lasting impression.
You don't want to fumble at the finish line.
And Emma gives Ryan a whole bunch of options for saying farewell, from a casual "see ya later" to a more formal "it was a pleasure meeting you."
It's all about choosing the right level of formality for the situation. Like, you wouldn't say, "take care" to someone you just met at a networking event, right?
Unless you're trying to be super memorable.
True. Sometimes breaking the rules can be a good thing. But generally speaking, it's best to stick with the tried and true phrases for saying goodbye. They're tried and true for a reason.
They work. Well, I think we've covered just about everything in this deep dive. We've explored greetings, introductions, shopping, dining, asking for directions, making plans, expressing emotions, and even saying goodbye. Phew, it's been quite a journey.
It has, but I think it's been a valuable one. We've unpacked so much about the nuances of everyday English and how these phrases can help us navigate our social world with confidence and grace.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So to all our listeners out there, we encourage you to keep practicing these phrases. Pay attention to how people use them in real-life conversations. And don't be afraid to experiment and try new things.
The more you use these phrases, the more natural and effortless they'll become.
Exactly. And you never know, maybe you'll even discover some new favorites along the way. Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you've enjoyed this unique exploration of everyday English. Until next time, keep those conversations flowing.